We've got you covered all season long. Welcome to the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right, here it is, Season 3, Episode 31 of the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go, sports bar. Brandon Carnes here with Justin Feldkamp, and Baseball with Bruce has found its way to the podcast. Bruce Johnson joining us. Welcome in, Bruce.
I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, we're happy to have an expert in the house. Speaking of experts, we are now officially draft experts, allegedly. The NFL draft kicks off tomorrow night, and I want to know, gentlemen, if you have a dream pick for your team to select in the first round of the NFL draft. Bruce, we'll let you go first. Justin and I are kind of debate the same team here in a second. You go ahead.
Well, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, and for me, the biggest need for the Detroit Lions is an edge rusher. Yep. I like Mikael Williams out of Georgia. I think he's a great fit. His motor never quits. He just keeps going. That's my head pick. Yep. My heart pick likes 𝗦𝗫𝗶𝗵𝘵 from Ohio State. I think he is tremendously undervalued, and I think he'd be a good fit in that Lions offense, but I think they need the edge rusher more.
Hey, that depends, right? There's some rumors. There's some J-Mo Williams moving on rumors, so that makes 𝗦𝗫𝗶𝗵𝘵 look even better if the case. But yeah, somebody outside Aiden Hutchinson as he recovers from that injury. Huge. Justin and I, Bengals fans, we're going to have a Who Dey Nation conversation. That rhymed, and I didn't mean it to, so thank you. Your pick, Justin, your thoughts.
You know what? I'm going to go with my head and my heart in this one.
Okay.
Harold Fannin Jr., a solid all-time performer for Bowling Green State University. He's not just the Homer Town guy because of Northwest Ohio ties, obviously, but because he delivered in the biggest games against top-tier talent on the road in many cases, and an all-time performance as far as the Mid-American Conference, a tight end winning the Mid-American Conference Offensive Player of the Year award. Never been done before. So I think it's a legit pick in your maybe second, third, fourth round. If he falls to the Bengals, that would be a great pick because the Bengals you talk about needs. So one thing, guys, about the NFL draft, one, everybody's an expert as an NFL scout this time of the year. But two, so many organizations historically just reach and they go for the shiny new toy.
Yep.
And because we kind of need a quarterback. If he's not legit, don't waste your number 9 overall pick, number 14 overall pick. Go get someone who's definitively going to succeed on your football team for 4 to 5 and maybe 10 years if you can re-sign him. But give me Harold Fannin Jr. for my Bengals.
There we go. Harold Fannin's there in the second round. I'm happy with it. If he's there at 17, I don't know if I love that there. But at 17, my guy, if he is cleared and healthy, torn labrum injury, Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. I think he's a dude that does it all. He's a Fred Warner for your defense. He's the face of that new program for Al Golden as he steps in as the new DC. That's enough draft talk. It's time for baseball. We've got our clip of the week coming up. We've got our game of the week, and we'll get you caught up on everything else that's happened on the diamond since we were last here 2 weeks ago for baseball talk. You want a new episode every single Wednesday, 4 p.m. on BCSN, bcsnnation.com/podcast, or anywhere you listen to your podcast, and in between Wednesday to Wednesday at BCSN Sports across all social media pages. But now it is time for a new little segment we're going to introduce on the podcast called Take Note. Your top newsworthy performances that have happened in the area since last we spoke. Bruce, again, the guest. You may go first.
There were several great performances in high school baseball last week, but what stood out for me was Ben Kubitz at Maumee High School. He's got an 0.39 ERA through 6 innings with 11 strikeouts against Genoa, and for me, he's my player of the week.
Yeah, not a bad pick. He's been dealing so far this season, hence the ERA, Justin.
Give me Landon Eversman from Clay. He pitched in a 9-1 win over Springfield. Also played a key role in a win against Ottawa Hills, of which we'll talk about in a little bit here. But he gets on base. He's a leader as a senior, and Clay has a number of underclassmen playing at the varsity level for the first time. So I think it's crucial for Coach Jim Phillips to have a senior leader who could be a coach on the field, a coach in the dugout. You know, they talk about a players-only meeting. You don't necessarily always hear about that at the high school level, but Clay had one. And I think that having that type of guy who's a pitcher, an offensive player, can play positions as well is just so valuable for the Eagles.
Yeah, both of those guys you bring up are multi-sport athletes, right, for programs on the football side that have had unfathomed success, right, compared to previous years. Does that success, as you look at those athletes and see them transition sport to sport, help them when you come to baseball season, give them some credibility, especially for a players meeting that you don't hear about?
Absolutely. Landon Eversman was a great football player for John Gaius and the Clay Eagles this year, but he's been committed since January to baseball.
Yeah.
Tell you a little something about him. The family is very close with Denny McLain, the last 30-game winner in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Denny McLain was at his game the other day when he threw a complete game shutout.
Nice.
So that was pretty interesting. Landon was my last week's player of the week.
Yep.
I really think highly of him and his leadership. He's a 4.2 in the classroom as well. Just a dynamic kid, and he committed last week to go to Owens Community College. So we'll be hearing his name for the next couple of years at least.
Keeping Owens close to home for Landon Eversman. And Justin, there's nobody that's going to tout multi-sport athletes like Justin Feldkamp.
100%. I talked to both UT and BG football coaches, Jason Kendall and Eddie George. Plug Eddie George's Inside Out episode coming up on Sunday,
Natural
May
plug.
4th. I also asked him about multi-sports athletes. He said he loves track and field guys with the sprint speed, and he loves wrestlers with the ability, with the leverage, knowing how to use their body, center of gravity, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely I tout multi-sport athletes because I listen to coaches who have succeeded at higher levels, specifically at college, and they believe in the multi-sport athletes.
A guy that both of those coaches will probably look towards pulling to their program, my guy, Landon Eckelberry. Mm-hmm. They're going to try and pry him away from the diamond on the baseball side of things. Number 1 freshman right-handed pitcher in the state of Ohio. Number 6 in the U.S. in that freshman class. Multi-sport athlete, got it done on the football field, 1,500 yards, 20 combined touchdowns. Wrestler, 30 wins at 215 pounds for the Trojans, and now shining. Got his first win, Bruce told me last night, on the diamond as a varsity pitcher for Findlay. Landon Eckelberry is my shout-out in your Take Notes segment. Now we got to go back in time to last Friday, a huge non-conference matchup on the diamond. Clay taking on Ottawa Hills. You just talked about Landon Eversman having a great performance in that one. A great all-around game, 6-5. Clay takes the win. First loss for O'Hills on the season. Good to get that loss out of the way and lose that unblemished record, take some pressure off? Or
yeah. I think, Chris Hardman's been there 44 years
been
now.
there, done that, yeah.
He knows Clay's a good team. Remember, Ottawa Hills went out and beat Perrysburg pretty solidly early in the season. It's a great Ottawa Hills baseball team with Colin Hennessy at the top of the rotation, Jackson Snyder. But, that game just felt like it was more important to Clay. Name me another program in Northwest Ohio that can lose 2 Division I college pitchers at the top of the rotation and still have a winning record. There's not very many.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Phillips had some holes to fill, but you just felt like that game was more important to Clay last Friday than it was Ottawa Hills.
Justin?
It was a battle, 6-5 in a back and forth affair at Ottawa Hills. Clay gets it 6-5. I liked the post game comments with what the approach was at the plate for Clay. They said the jump on Colin Hennessy's fastball. Hennessy, the transfer from St. Francis over to Ottawa Hills, his family moved into that school district. Don't let him get ahead in the count. And I can't tell you how it's a little bit of next level baseball in comparison, kind of youth to the varsity level, where you got to have an approach. It's not necessarily individual by individual 1 through 9 in the batting order. It's a collective team approach after the coaching staff designs a game plan based on watching some film or previous appearances in games played against that particular pitcher. So you say, okay, here's where he's at his best. How do we counter that? And that's with a team-wide approach to, okay, hey, first fastball you see that's a strike. Let's rip it. Let's be aggressive at the plate.
Proactive.
And that's the way that they did it. That's not to say that you got to do that for every single pitcher. If you got a pitcher who's going to work the count quite a bit and try to get you to chase, but maybe drives up your pitch count, a lot of coaching and a lot of methodology, I would say, Bruce, can go into a particular game plan. And this worked to a certain degree for Clay's offense against Ottawa Hills, a team, like you mentioned, it beat Perrysburg. Also, it beat Beaver Creek. And as we've said many times, Ottawa Hills, a smaller enrollment school, lower division, but they will face anybody and everybody as they approach. Because that's the one thing we've talked about on this podcast last year, Bruce, was Coach Chris Hardman has 700-plus wins. and just think if he did what other smaller enrollment schools did, where they didn't necessarily go face a Division I Perrysburg year after year after year, that win total would be significantly higher.
Oh, absolutely. And one last thing I want to say about the Clay team, it was interesting to me when you watched them in the dugout, they acted like they were 8-0. Mm-hmm. You had no idea they were on a losing streak. Everybody was positive. They were supporting each other. Whatever Jimmy Phillips is doing out there at Clay, it's working. They're going to be tough to deal with by the end of the season.
Yeah, they are a program rich in tradition, like you said, replacing major parts, still off to a 6-4 start to the season, maybe 7-4. I know they played Fremont Ross last night. They stay unbeaten as of now in the Cardinal Division, team that we think is going to be up there in the running for it. Ottawa Hills still unbeaten in TAC play. They've got a big one with Orchard Lake St. Mary's coming up on Friday, coming down for some CHSL taction. Now, we're going to catch our breaths, take a quick break. We'll be right back after 30 seconds from Buffalo Wild Wings. Hit it, Steve.
Buffalo Wild Wings buy one, get one free boneless Thursdays saved me so much cash. I can finally do everything I've ever wanted in life, like skydiving. You ready? No, this was a mistake, a huge mistake. I want to go back. I want to go back. Go, go, go! Ah! Yeah, I'll probably just use the money I saved to get more buy one, get one free boneless wings at B-Dubs. No brainer. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
All right, we go from one non-conference matchup to an upcoming non-conference matchup. Start taking on Springfield in a City League NLL clash. Two teams off to opposite ends of the spectrum, or so it feels, especially in their conference play. Start 6-3-1. Yes, 1. That means they tied with Bowser back on April 9th. Not a thing we see too often here in area baseball. And then Springfield, the other end of things, 2-9. They played Napoleon last night, so 3-9, 2-10. One of the two, right? These are two teams, like I said, heading in what feels like different directions in Springfield, trying to get things going the right way, Justin.
Yeah, with Coach Dave Whitmire, he and I got to know each other quite well here for the last 5, 6, 7 years here. And I said, well, why is this game being played at Carter Park, not at Springfield? It was Springfield's home game. And he says, well, he always likes to go down there and play at that because it's a home away from home from him. He grew up He grew up down there and really values the Carter Park connection. He runs a lot of baseball tournaments on the youth level during the summer, and a lot of tournaments originate from Carter Park. Tim Dunn down there does a fabulous job, FYI, if you haven't been down there. New facility in regards to lighting and parking lot and bathroom facilities, et cetera. So shout out to them. But also, that's where the tournament is played.
Correct.
Sure.
Historically, for Springfield in that division playing at Carter Park is no longer with the expanded 4 to 7 divisions for the OHSA. D3 for Springfield is now played at Oak Harbor and Tiffin. So regardless, he still wanted to go down there and play there. So there's that. But yes, Whitmire and Springfield have a young team. They start 2 sophomores, 4 juniors. One of the kind of fun things for Coach Whitmire is he's coaching 2 of his sons, Cam, a senior, Kale, a sophomore. Kale's leading the team in batting average at .320 right now. The offense has struggled. They have had averaging 11 strikeouts per game. So, Bruce, as you know, when you have younger players playing varsity for the first time and you're going up against the likes of NLL Buckeye caliber players and teams and pitchers, you're going to take your lumps. And last weekend they played Hilliard-Davidson and Hilliard-Darby, 2 traditional programs from the Columbus area, and they've lost, but they competed. 11-7 and 10-7 were the final scores, and Coach Whitmire told me that those are going to pay off for the Devils come tournament time and in the NLL time. But he's relying upon guys like Bryce Steinmiller as well, and then both Whitmire boys. But on the flip side for Start, Coach Dan Weiss, he's in his 4th year. He told me some of the keys for this one are pitching, having the confidence to hit their spots and then play good defense, stick to that game plan that we alluded to earlier as an offensive approach. And then he acknowledged that Coach Whitmire and Springfield are always well coached, so you got to be disciplined and then timely hitting. I think in an evenly matched game like this, timely hitting crucial to the eventual outcome on the final scoreboard.
You're absolutely right. This is kind of a coin toss for me.
Sure.
But the thing that stands out for Springfield for me, and you're right, Dave Whitmire does a tremendous job there. They've been outscored 91-56. When you see a 35-run differential through 11 games, you know they've taken some pretty good beatings early in the season. They will get better. To Justin's point, I don't think they'll be able to compete in the NLL Buckeye. That's a pretty strong division.
Sure.
But if they can get better, get some of the young guys experience with Dave, they'll be better next year. And I think that as the season goes along, you'll see vast improvement.
Yeah, we'll talk about, taking your lumps early in the season with some of the other teams you talk about. But for start on the opposite end, you talk about run score differential. Their 6 wins, they have scored 72 runs. Their 3 losses, 1.
Yeah.
Right. So there's your swing. They're putting up runs. They're getting in wins. You got 1 run in 3 losses. You're trying to figure out, all right, what did we do wrong in those ones that we aren't doing the other days of the week? And it could just be competition, right? You're playing the bigger
100%.
schools, and then some of the City League schools that are still trying to get their footing and come back, right? A lot of the reasons Start has dominated the City League over the last decade plus. That one, Thursday, 6 p.m. on BCSN Plus. Do not miss it. But now, something else not to miss is our clip of the week, brought to you by Renewal by Anderson. Steve, do it. Clip of the week. We are going back to that same Clay and Ottawa Hills match we talked about, and Brandon Vargas behind the plate, the freshman catcher. Here we are in the bottom of the 5th inning. Cooper Eidenauer at the plate, sets up the bunt. Got a little too under that one. Oh, man,
love it.
Brandon Vargas, ditch the mask, find the ball. There's a level of focus I think people that are not baseball inclined don't understand, right? Where I see the ball, I'm ditching the mask, I'm going to lose the ball, right? And to re-find it, track it, an impressive play, and a freshman behind the plate doing it.
You know what? I was so impressed with him. In the 7th inning, he threw out Jackson Snyder trying to steal. That was the tying run. He was on it all day. He had control of his pitchers. When he took off his mask, he looked like he was 7 years old to me. I mean, you talk about a baby face.
Yeah.
But that play doesn't show up in the box score. That
Sure.
was huge in the outcome of that game.
Oh, absolutely. Just look at the bottom right of your screen here on the replay. You got Ottawa Hills with a base runner on 3rd in a 1-run game in the 5th inning. It's something I tell all the youth baseball teams that I coach. The crucial play is not always in the 7th inning in the last out of the game. It could be just like this in the 5th inning where you're trying to protect a lead. And what was the final score in this game? 6-5, a 1-run game, a key defensive play, not a double to the gap that scores 3 runs. A catcher with a heads up, literally, rips off his mask.
Crushed
and
it.
Bruce, this is a defensive play where if you hesitate, you don't make the play.
Correct.
Period, end of story. You have to be aggressive and go make the play. That's a play as a coach where, hey, even if for some reason you bobbled it, falls to the ground, love the effort.
Yeah.
Great job, catcher, especially as a freshman. I mean, that's just tremendous. And if you're a head coach or a coaching staff member of Clay or any team that has that type of effort from a young player, you're like, hey, sign me up for 3+ more years of that, baby.
Yeah, and the way he handled the pitchers blocked behind the plate, he did not look like a freshman at all.
Sure. Yeah, and you look at, we come back to the wide camera there, that thing's shaking, the wind's going, you see the net behind the backstop there, that thing's moving. That makes it even harder. Shout out Brandon Vargas of the Clay Eagles. A 6-5 win, a great play for the freshman. You want more clips just like this, head over to our TikTok at BCSN Sports, sliding ever closer to 10,000 followers, and now we're going back into the future tense of things. Something we talked about earlier, 2 teams trying to get their footing as we hit this middle point of the season. Whitmer and Southview going at it Friday, 5 p.m. on BCSN Plus. Southview 1-4 in league play, 5-5 overall. The Panthers, the opposite end of the spectrum, haven't found their first win yet, but this is a very young team, Bruce.
Well, you know Matt LaPointe.
Yes.
He's a good friend of yours, and Matt's taken over the program at Whitmer, knew they were tremendously young, very young, just like Clay. If you look at a couple of their games, they've lost a couple heartbreakers, a 1-0 game, a 2-1 game.
11 innings with Clay, yeah.
11 innings. It was 0-0, and they lose. Landon Eversman with a big hit, of course. But they're in games. They haven't quit. There's a lot of fight. I think they're going to get Southview for that first victory of the year. As you mentioned, they lost last night. Landon Eckelberry got his first high school win. But they're competing. They're in every game.
Absolutely.
And that's what you like. The effort's there. They care.
Yeah, talking to Matt LaPointe, it's not favoritism, right? I'm being straight down the middle. He is saved in my phone as Uncle Matt. I will say that. All right. I've known him basically my whole life at this point, but talking to him, he said, we're close. We haven't figured out how to put all the aspects of the game together at the same time. The kids are staying positive because we knew coming in the first half of the season was going to be difficult. They replaced a ton of senior talent from last year, and they're really young. And then Southview on the other end of things, trying to, again, get their footing and get another win in the NLL.
Oh, yeah. I love that feedback that you got, because I can tell that he hasn't lost the dugout, hasn't lost the locker room,
right.
Even without a win thus far. So that's terrific, especially from a first-year head coach, a coach who has had some reps within the program, just not at the head helm level. But you got guys like Brody Longinus, you got Drew Brindley, Jaden Mahone, Anthony LaRoe, guys that you can count on to have that belief to keep at it. And that's hard, Bruce. I mean, when you don't get the taste of victory, it's hard to keep plugging, and you got to have that belief, and you got to have that leadership at the coaching from not just the head coach, but the positive reinforcement from a pitching coach or a hitting coach or just an assistant coach, a bench coach, whatever the case may be. And I think that Whitmer has that, because they had a great year last year. And it's one of those things where, as a head coach, you know who's coming up. You know who's in the freshman class, the sophomore class, the junior class, and you know when you got to strike when the iron's hot. Last year, they capitalized in many, many, many ways. I know they didn't win a regional championship or a state championship by any means, but you got to go when you got the horses. And last year, they had a bigger senior class, and they were solid and got meaningful victories. Mm-hmm. And now they got to hit the reset button a little bit and get some of the younger guys some reps. But on the flip side, for Coach Tim McCarthy in Southview, they lost to BG on Monday. Roster's a mix of returning guys who were in starter roles last year and then some newcomers. He told me he likes his team speed and the ability to steal some bases, not afraid to play the small ball game with some bunting. He said the key for both teams, this is going to be a key game for both teams, because you mentioned Whitmer, you think that they might be able to get a win. These crossover games do count in football. When the crossover games occur, they count against your overall record, but not your division record, but they do in baseball. So I think that Clay, Napoleon, Southview, and BG are the top 4 teams in the Cardinal. Clay and Napoleon, I think, are the favorites. But I think both BG and Southview can creep up a little bit, maybe steal a win. I don't think they're going to be winning the Cardinal division. But Carson Fielding, Luke Hermiller, Drew Young, guys for Southview who can come and contribute.
Here's the interesting thing. I love this quote from Tim McCarthy. We can compete if we find consistency. Yeah. And that's been their problem this year. They have not been consistent. They pitch well, they don't hit. They hit, they don't pitch well. That's going to be key for them as this season continues.
Both of these teams taking their early season lumps to find later half of the season success. And now we got 2 teams that I know Bruce is excited about both of them. They're going at it in our Game of the Week, brought to you by Dunn Chevy in Oregon. Hit it there, Steve. If you missed baseball with Bruce last week, well, shame on you, first of all. Second of all, these 2 teams going at it were 1 and 2 in his top 10 power rankings. St. John's, St. Francis, 2 teams with a lot of hope, and some of which coming off a tough loss on St. Francis' side to Anthony Wayne. But these are 2 teams, a rivalry game, first and foremost, right? They are going to come at each other with everything they have. And then an early season test where both of them are seeing, all right, this is where I am as things are starting to shake out.
I have the privilege to call this game tomorrow, and I am excited because I really believe St. John's is the best team in the area right now. Now, what's interesting, they have St. Francis tomorrow. Oh, by the way, they play Anthony Wayne today.
Yeah, Wednesday.
So it's going to be interesting to see what Sam Fisher does with his pitching. I have a feeling he'll throw off today and save his ace for tomorrow. But the thing with St. John's is they've got 3 top pitchers with Donovan Matimo, J.J. Fody, and John Tober. They've got 3 very good pitchers. Right. That's why I think they're going to be at the top. St. Francis, I mean, Bobby Edgell does a great job over there. You've seen the way they matured through the season last year. That Catholic League in Detroit plays very good baseball for people that don't understand. Yeah. It's very comparable, maybe even a little bit better than the NLL Buckeye.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that good a baseball from year to year. It varies. but I think we're going to have a tremendous game tomorrow. And as we know, these two rivals, they don't need a lot to get fired up. I can't wait to get to Don Kober Field tomorrow for that game.
Yeah, Bobby Edgel talked about it in the preseason Blade Report, right, where we talked all basketball season about, man, the CHSL, holy smokes. He said there's double the amount of D1 prospects on the baseball side of things than there were on the court. Justin, I know you're ready for this one too.
Yeah, busy week for both of these teams. St. John's is taking on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Central Catholic, Anthony Wayne, and then St. Francis. St. Francis on Wednesday taking on Central Catholic, and then St. John's on Thursday. So, like you said, very key element of coaching. Okay, who are we pitching? How many pitches can we have this guy go? How many innings can we have this guy go? Do we have guys that throw back-to-back, maybe an inning here, an inning there? A lot of strategery with these teams in this matchup here. But in Coach Edgel, he told me in his third year, looking for consistent pitching. Julian Coleman has pitched well at times early in the season. They lost Mano Bublik and Colin Hennessy, so you're trying to find those guys that you can rely upon. And the fact that a lot of teams are busy this week, maybe making up some games that were rained out or colded out in some cases from earlier in the year. But he told me, I like this bit. One, you got to throw strikes, St. Francis does, and then the free base war. That applies to walks, hit by pitch, wild pitches, pass balls, and steals. I love that aspect because he told me in all the games that they played so far, the winner of that statistic won the game, whether it was his team or the other team. So talk about those little tiny details throughout an entire game that can add up to a victory. And then having hard contact. And I thought that was interesting because that's what I preach at the youth level. Just hit the ball hard. Okay, It's difficult for someone to field a ball that's a rocket shot, maybe a 1-2 hopper. It still applies at the high school level, college level, MLB level. On the flip side for fifth-year coach Sam Fisher, remember they had 6 wins all of last year. Repeat that. 6 wins all of last year. They had 5 wins entering Tuesday. So they're already ahead of the game in many respects. He told me the key to this game, rivalry game, got to come ready to play. Winning moments within the game. Enjoy each other playing in the dugout and on the field. Offensively, put pressure on them. Put the ball in play. You can't take strikes down the middle. And then focus on each play. Each pitch is a new pitch, and you got to forget about those mistakes and move on. Easier said than done, but both of these teams are going to have to do that to get a victory.
This rivalry matchup coming up Thursday, that is 5 p.m. on BCSN+. Bruce will be there like he told you. St. John's did pick up their season matching from last season. 6th win last night, beat Central Catholic. We want to know who you think is going to win this matchup. Make sure you let us know, and we'll be right back. Wrap this whole show up after 30 seconds from Buffalo Wild Wings.
I've saved so much money enjoying Buffalo Wild Wings BOGO half-off traditional wing Tuesdays. I can finally afford everything I've ever wanted in life. Wings. All I ever wanted was more wings. So yeah, buy one, get one half-off traditional wings is the perfect deal for me and my lifetime yearnings. I value it more than literally anything. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
Those who know me know I love chicken wings. Those who listen to the podcast know I love my Midas games list. Hit it, Steve. Let's see what we got this week on BCSN. We are busy. Tonight, the Hens, they're back in town, baby. We got high school softball City League action, Start and Rogers at 5 p.m. on the BCSN Plus app. So you listen to us, you go get your dinner, and you sit right back down for some City League softball. Hens back at it on Thursday, and then a slate of high school action start in Springfield. We talked about St. John's and St. Francis. Oh, well, by the way, rivalry matchup on the lacrosse side of things, too. St. John, St. Francis, 7 o'clock, some back-to-backs. And then the Hens back at it on Friday. And then the Battle of I-75 hits the Diamond softball things on the NLL Network. And then that Whitmer-Southview matchup we talked about, something up there that catches your eye, maybe aside from the games that we've mentioned.
I've got something for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
I had the privilege of calling the Mud Hens game last night.
There we go.
Brad went 13 innings.
Yeah. Walk.
Riley Unruh got the victory on the mound.
As a position player.
And
Love
got
that.
the game-winning RBI when he walked with the bases loaded. I had never seen that before. He went 3 innings, did a great job. With Keeter Montero being called up to the Tigers, it was a bullpen game yesterday
There
for
we go.
Gabe Alvarez and the Mud Hens.
Justin?
Yeah, Steve, leave that up there. The St. John, St. Francis game. I'm going to give you 2 key names, potential player of the game for St. Francis, Drew
There you
Tucker, and then how about Kenyon Miller for St. John? So keep an eye on those guys. But hopefully student sections show up and show out for the Titans at night, back to back. You just forget about homework, studying. Just go encourage your teammates and your classmates there at both of those places. We're looking forward to those matchups. And the Walleye finished off the sweep against Indy earlier this week, so we got plenty of time before they prepare for the second round series.
There you go. That's what the jersey's for, baby. We're representing the sweep over Indy last night. We got a brand new episode of the podcast coming back next Wednesday with Alyssa and Sarah and softball action. Until then, make sure you follow at BCSN Sports, at Justin Feldkamp. Don't miss a thing from Wednesday to Wednesday. Until then, see ya.